have you here for the event. Thank you, Amanda. We're so excited to have you here for How to Break into Management Consulting tonight. We've got an awesome, absolutely stacked panel waiting for you. While we wait just a couple minutes to let people trickle in, go ahead and enter a spot to win. We are giving out a free giveaway for our Management Consulting Bootcamp. One lucky attendee will be given a free spot. This is valued at over $2,500, and we're giving away one free at the end of tonight. So make sure to sign up for that. You can do bit.ly/MBBprep. You can also scan that QR code, and then Amanda just dropped the link in the chat. So you've got 3 entry points. Do that while we wait, and we'll get started in just 1 minute. Okay, awesome. This is how to get into management consulting. We are so excited to have you here tonight. Thanks for joining us on this evening or later, depending on where you are. I know some people log in from all over the place. Make sure to sign up for Leland, create a free account if you haven't done so already. It's how you'll access the recording for tonight. You'll also get invites to future free events and resources and all the good things. Highly recommend creating a free account if you haven't done so already. Quick event logistics. Feel free to ask questions in the chat throughout this. Our team and then the panelists will try to answer them as we can. Be respectful to other attendees, but feel free to ask questions there. As mentioned, we'll be doing a giveaway at the end, so stay on until the end for those discounts and other giveaways. And then sign up for Leland to access the recording. Quick agenda, we'll do some welcome and introductions, tell you who we are, who your panelists are. Then we'll dig into the meat of this, which will be the panel, and then we'll wrap up with a final word. Quick welcome and introductions. My name is Amelia. I run content at Leland. It's my job to help you access the resources and all the things that you need to reach all of your goals. If there's anything that I personally can do to help you get into consulting or do anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out. You'll also see Erica and Amanda here. They are responsible for putting on these free events. So huge shout out and thank you to them. You'll see Amanda in the chat. Give her a little wave if you see her. On to the real stars of the show, though. Want you to meet your panelists for tonight. Ladies, I'll have you introduce yourself. Let's start with Christina.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you and good to see you all. My name is Christina B. I spent 7 years at management consulting at McKinsey. I'll give you a little bit of background on myself. So I graduated from UT Austin back in 2017 after a bachelor's and a master's in accounting, business, and I dabbled in pre-med for a couple of years as well. So I got a minor in chemistry and decided consulting was the right path for me because I couldn't make up my mind on what else I wanted to do. I knew for sure accounting wasn't the right path for me, although I have a lot of respect for my accountants. So I joined as a business analyst in the Dallas office for 2 years before I moved to San Diego. That's where I live now. And being at the firm for 7 years means I just got to do a lot of different things. So I've served over 30 different clients across different industries. My primaries have been in healthcare, pharma, and technology. And I recently moved to a health tech company where I do strategy work now as an in-house strategy person. So it's been a transition, really fun, but happy to be here and tell you guys my honest opinions on what this world is about.
Great. Thanks, Christina. Hi, everyone. I'm Veronika. Nice to meet you. I'll be the second panelist this evening. So background on myself. So similar as these ladies, I have experience in consulting. It started off as an internship first at Deloitte. I was interning there after my junior year at Boston College. Really enjoyed it, but wanted to make sure I got more international experience in consulting for my join. So I ultimately end up joining and taking an offer at Oliver Wyman. So after graduation, I worked at Oliver Wyman for several years, then knew I wanted to go into the corporate space because I wanted to see projects all the way through to implementation and to try something different. Did that for a couple years, both at larger tech companies and then also startups, both in strategy and operations and analytics. And then I also pivoted now into products. So I lead up product at The RealReal. If any of you guys are knowledgeable of that e-commerce site, I love it, and lead lead up pricing and some of the operation initiatives there in the product space. And then in a couple months, I will be joining BCG as an experienced hire back into consulting on a more senior level. For my own personal career journey, it's a full circle, and I think consulting offers great aspects to your career, and you can learn amazing things at different times in your career path. So excited to return to BCG and answer any questions you all might have today. And I'll pass it on to Bella.
Hi, nice to meet you all. My name is Bella. I graduated from Cornell University this past January, where I studied industrial and labor relations, and I minored in business. I interned at Bain this past summer, 2023, in the San Francisco office, where I primarily worked with technology clients. That's where my prior intern experience had been, primarily at startups. And I'll be returning there as an associate consultant, or AC, in November. During my time at Cornell, I also worked as an advisor in the career services office. So I really enjoyed working with students to help them on their consulting recruitment journey. So I did resume reviews and cover letters and all of those helpful appointments. And I started coaching on Leland because I know the process is incredibly intimidating and difficult. I didn't have anybody in my family or any friends who were or who had gone through the process. So I find so much joy in now helping people navigate it. And yeah, I've already helped one client earn their dream internship, and I'm excited to do more because I just started in July. So it's been really fun so far.
Bella
Awesome.
sparked something that I had forgotten about. I got my McKinsey interview 2 weeks before I even knew what consulting interviews were about. And so it is very stressful to begin with, and also being in a time crunch is really stressful. So if you guys ever want to talk about that, let me know.
We will definitely, I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit tonight. Thank you, ladies, for the introductions. I love that we have all MBB represented here and recruiting from different stages in your career. So we'll be able to offer a lot of different perspectives tonight. You now know us. We would love to start getting to know you. So drop in the chat, where are you working and studying, and then when are you recruiting? We like to see who's from the furthest, where people are dialing in from. So don't be shy. We're just gonna sit here in silence until you start answering us. Come on, guys. Australia. Okay, first one might take the cake. I am so sorry, because I'm sure it's not as convenient of a time in Australia as it is here. New York, London, Toronto, New Zealand. Holy cow. LA, Santa Barbara, India, China, Pakistan. Oh my gosh, Morocco, Washington. Okay, we've got quite the diverse representation here. Thank you guys for being here tonight, especially if it's the middle of the night, which it seems like it might be for some of you. Keep them coming. We'd love to get to know you. Oh no, I just jumped to the very end. Okay, let's get into, if this is your first Leland event, want to tell you a little bit about who we are and why you should listen to us. So we're building the one-stop shop to help you reach whatever your goals are, whether that's getting to grad school, get into consulting, ace a test, up-level your career, whatever it is. We've got 750 plus experts like these ladies that you can work with one-on-one for personalized, like really customized advice to your background and what you're trying to do. We also host a ton of events like this. Stay tuned for more. By signing up, you'll get invites to them. And then we also do boot camps, cohort-based courses where you'll actually join a group of people that are going through this recruiting process with you and learn from the experts, like handpick people who have very specific subject area expertise to help you. We're so happy to have you here. I think my favorite thing about working for Leland is this slide. It's working. We're helping so many people reach their goals, and it's our absolute favorite thing. When Bella gets someone into her dream internship, you've got the whole Leland team just as excited and rooting for you and cheering you on. As you can see, we've got Boston Consulting Group, Bain. We've helped people at all of the top consulting firms too, and we'd love to help you as well. Consulting is extremely competitive. We'll get into some of this tonight, but having an expert, having a team to have your back makes such a difference. These coaches on this panel, as well as our other ones on the platform, can help with a ton of different things, from end-to-end coaching, like having someone walk you through every part of the consulting application process, resume, networking, coffee chats, the case interviews, behavioral interviews, PEIs, all the things, application strategy. Yeah, so much these coaches can help with depending on what you need. If you would like to schedule a strategy call, use that QR code. You can actually hop on with a member of our team. We'll help you figure out what is the right thing, what's the right need for you and your background, and get you matched to a coach or whatever else you need. And then the last thing is our consulting bootcamp. So like I mentioned, we're giving away a free spot tonight to it. Make sure to do that, bit.ly/MBB prep if you haven't done so already. Again, this is over $2,600 value, and we're giving away one for free. So make sure to sign up. It starts on September 16th. If you're recruiting anytime in the next 12 months, this is for you. So even if you're a little bit far out, it will still be applicable. We're bringing in a bunch of different experts to help you on different pieces of the application. Okay, let's get into the brass tacks here and start asking some questions about the application, the recruiting process. We're gonna kick it off with a little bit of a softball. So ladies, would love to hear from each of you what initially prompted you to get into consulting. Christina, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. One of the hardest questions that I am still answering to this day is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that was something, obviously, in college, you have to answer for yourself to a certain extent. And I realized, my gosh, I have so many interests and I'm not ready yet to be able to specialize in something. So I dabbled on pre-med for a while. I did all of the courses and I realized this is a little bit too narrow for me right now. I obviously dabbled into accounting, did a couple of Big Four internships as well, and realized I want to do something a little bit more strategic where I'm able to think higher level and really learn about what makes companies successful. And so that's how I decided to get into consulting. I had a friend who did an internship at one of the MBBs prior, and she told me about the work that she did. And it sort of blew my mind because one, you're encouraged actually to do a random walk of different industries and different topical areas, which I thought was insane. But two, you get to be in rooms with senior leaders and executives almost from day one or week one. And that's pretty unique because you get to then learn about what makes a good leader, what type of leader you want to be, etc. So I thought that was a good opportunity. And then the third, I mean, this goes without saying, but you are truly surrounded by incredibly smart people. But in my experience, also smart but good humans as well, who I wanted to be friends with, who I wanted to learn from. And so the interview process actually showed me a lot of that. And that's why I decided to join McKinsey.
I love that particular point that even going through recruiting, I think consulting in particular has structured its recruiting process to simulate what it's actually like to be in the job. So by going through the process, you're going to learn a lot about whether consulting is actually the right thing for you. Veronika, why did you choose consulting?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of similar things that Christina mentioned, but new things I think to add on to that. Big thing for me. So my background at Boston College, I studied finance and information systems. So I was very much in a business track and knew even going into college that I wanted to create my own business eventually. And I wanted to build out the skill set needed to effectively and successfully build a business. And through conversations with my advisors and my network in college, I was toying between investment banking, consulting, working at a startup, and through a lot of conversations with people who I admired, they always pointed to consulting as a great career path that opens many doors for you and never pigeonholes you like some of these other career paths do. So I found for myself personally, it was the right choice to open up more opportunities for my career. And it's definitely been true for my own personal journey. It helped me get into analytics, strategy and operations, product management. And I think that really speaks to the skill set you build in consulting. Oftentimes people call it like the consulting toolkit, and it's totally true. Like I think consulting is a great career path if you're just graduating from university. And even if you're an experienced hire, like I'm going back into consulting as experienced hire because I think now I'm focused on learning more of the selling side as a more senior individual at BCG. So you can always learn something important at in consulting and at these top firms especially. And Christina alluded to this, but the quality of people there, both on a professional and personal level, is very hard to find other places. Every company has great people, but the concentration of great people is unparalleled, like you'll find at consulting firms. And if that's something you're looking for, to not be the smartest person in the room, but rather learn from others, especially while you're younger in your career, it's an exceptional opportunity. So I can't recommend it more than I can right now. It's really a great career path. Doesn't mean other areas aren't great, but that's for me why I chose consulting, is because it just opened up a lot of opportunities and it didn't close any doors for me.
I love that. Thank you. Bella, round us off.
Yeah, obviously echo both what Veronika and Christina said. What Christina said about having access to really senior members of these companies was super apparent to me in my internship, especially, being a 21-year-old and being able to have a say in some of these like really big strategic decisions that are happening at huge companies is an experience you won't get in any other career path. So that really echoed with me. And then I think the main gist, what Christina said before as well, which if you don't know what you want to do, consulting is a great place to go from there, because you'll get access to so many different industries and all different types of functions within these companies. So it's a great way to just kind of delay the process and just learn a ton in a couple of years. Especially, if you are a person who loves working in teams and you're a person who loves doing a lot of problem solving, because consulting across firms is very, very collaborative. You'll get the chance to work with people from, all different backgrounds. I saw, one comment, someone said, are they just looking for people who have business backgrounds? I think completely the answer is no. I think they love seeing people from completely different backgrounds. So you'll be working with people who were engineers in college, who might be like on the pre-med track. People come from all over. And so having all of those different perspectives at the table, I think makes your solutions a lot stronger. So they're definitely looking for people with different backgrounds.
Yeah, I love that. I love how there were some generalities, and there are some generalities in consulting, but each of your answers was tailored to your background and what you want into your future career. I think this dovetails well into our next question, but it's also something for you guys to think about as you're going into this recruiting process of, okay, what about consulting do I really resonate with? Do I really like? And it's okay if the answer is the same as other people, but you want to unique and personalize it to your specific background and goals. This is related to this question of, what do you recommend individuals actually do to determine whether consulting is right for them, whether they can succeed in consulting? How much of that work should be done up front? Christina, you were on the hiring committee at McKinsey, so you saw a lot of applicants come through the door. What do you think about this?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I actually spend quite a bit of my time in coaching with my clients around why consulting for them. And to your point, Amelia, there are usually the cookie cutter answers of, oh, I want to, experience all that consulting can offer, or something along those lines. And we spend a lot of time intentionally around, what is it for you that really excites you? And so I had a client who had studied economics and neuroscience. And so we dug in deeper, and to really kind of figure out for himself what his story is around consulting, which is that he's really motivated by how humans behave and work, and also how that leads to making companies successful. And so we were able to kind of form a story around that. I think that before you start to think about consulting recruiting process, because it is pretty arduous, spending even just a couple of hours or, some time at a cafe, doing a little bit of introspection on what is exciting to you about consulting at a much deeper level than what you probably would have heard, right? From how I work as a person, what my strengths are, what motivates me, what is it about consulting from what I know that might be helpful. And then also, you could talk to other folks, whether it's coaches like us or your friends who have done internships or have experience before, because they will give you the honest perspectives around the big pros and the big cons of what consulting entails. But having a little bit of that self-reflection will definitely help. And that's something that I did for myself too, especially as I was preparing for the behavioral part of the interview process.
I love that. I want to highlight that one thing that you kind of alluded to at the end. The self-reflection process is not only going to help you figure out whether consulting is right for you, it's also going to benefit you a ton once you get into the interview process. You can speak to particular, very specific things that you've done in your research. You have a really clear idea of how you will succeed in the consulting role. That's something that interviewers are looking for. Of, do I think this person will actually succeed? Do they actually want to be here? Will they be a good consultant? All of these things you can answer if you've done that self-reflection, introspection piece. Would you agree with that, Christina?
Absolutely. And, having interviewed probably 100, I would say 150 candidates at McKinsey at this point, the candidates who really stand out are not necessarily ones who've done the best cases and have the best answers. Most people do because they're already prepared. And if you've gotten an interview from these companies, you already have a very stellar experience and leadership experiences as well. I think what really does differentiate you from others is that personal story of like, why are you motivated and why are you excited? Because on the other end, as the interviewer, it's very apparent for me to be able to see that, wow, you truly are excited. You do enjoy the process. And I also think that doing some cases, to your point, Amelia, earlier, it is a good reflection of what we do on a day-to-day in terms of how we approach a problem, how we break it down into pieces. And so that'll also give you a good chance of, hey, is this something that I like to do? Is this something that I could see myself doing for, a while?
Yeah, that's a great insight. Okay, so you've decided that you want to pursue consulting at this point. Now you have to start to get into the hard part, which is figuring out how to prepare a standout candidacy. Bella, you went through this somewhat recently. Talk me through, you know that you want to go into consulting. What were the first couple of things that you did to start to prepare?
Yeah, so I think the most simple answer is, start networking, which Christina touched on. But I think when it comes to networking, it really is kind of hitting until you stop missing, I guess. So sending out as many emails as you can, but being intentional in who you're reaching out to. So if you can find, people from your university, people from your hometown, looking and finding something that you have in common will, increase the chances that they're going to respond to you. So making your email or your LinkedIn message as personalized as possible was important for me. And then once you do, have that networking chat, instead of focusing, I think the misconception is that like the point of networking is to get a referral. And, some companies, they don't even do referrals. So I think you should approach networking with the lens that you're learning about the firm to help tailor your resume and your cover letter to make a really standout application. So learn about their staffing model, learn about the things that make that firm really unique, and then use that for your, behavioral interviews and for your actual application to write a really strong cover letter. I think, besides networking, I really focused most of my energy on case preparation after submitting my application. And when it comes to case prep, which I know we'll get into a little bit more later, but my biggest tip is really prioritizing quality over quantity. And I say that to all of my clients. And when they, ask me how many cases they should do, I think it's really important, instead of rushing through as many cases as you can, even when you're on, that time crunch that Christina was talking about, to take the time to thoroughly analyze each case that you do. So revisiting it after you do it the first time to identify what you could do better, how you can improve. Because I do think there is something called overcasing. Like, I think when you do too many cases back to back to back, you lose the excitement and the energy that really shines through when you're casing. So consulting firms want to see genuine enthusiasm for problem solving and for thinking of creative answers. So when casing really becomes a chore, I think it shows. So by focusing on kind of fewer high quality cases, I stayed really engaged, and I also was just able to give each case more of my 100%.
I love that.
Maybe piling onto that, Bella's point around being intentional about networking, because most of you probably, if you have tried, know that you're probably going to get ghosted 80-90% of times, especially in this market right now. And so being intentional could mean a couple of things, right? It could mean, one, I loved when people reached out to me and they actually did a little bit of research and they said, oh, you have an accounting background, but you're in consulting. I'm in accounting too. Can you tell me a little bit more? Or with one of my clients, we talked about he was really interested in glam at McKinsey. And so we were able to find someone who led glam in the Dallas office that he could talk to. Same thing, right? We found for another client, someone who led the Asian American initiative efforts at McKinsey as well. And so there are kind of like nuances that can really help you find the person that frankly you'd be most interested in talking to.
And can genuinely get the most value from. And I think the consultant on the other side, I'm sure you three have been reached out to a million times already, and you can feel the intent of, is this person genuinely want to learn from me? Do they have something similar in my background? Do I think I can provide value for them? Or are they just looking for a 5-minute chat and then a referral? Veronika, I would love for you to speak about networking too, because I think coffee chats and general networking is such a crucial part of this.
Absolutely. I think so what Bella and Christina mentioned, all good points. I think just to layer onto that, at the end of the day, I try to always make networking really genuine, because I think that goes a long way, right? These people, as Amelia just mentioned too, like at wherever I'm at, right, we get hundreds throughout the year of just people reaching out. And so the more genuine it comes across, the better. And the more unique it comes across, the better. So I think it has to be true to yourself, but personalizing the messaging, whether it's an email or a LinkedIn request, anything in a messaging format or meeting in person, I think just making it really personal and more of an empathetic request rather than, it's pretty clear when someone reaches out to me and they've sent that same messaging to like 10 other people. So I think really be conscious of that and narrow down your networking approach to just start with 5 to 10 people and really focus on the quality of your outreach rather than, trying to reach out to 50 or 100 people. Really focus on the quality and the small list of people first. And then if you do get no responses, then move on to other people. But I think really narrowing your focus will help not only make it genuine, but also relieve a lot of pressure and stress on you. If you're trying to reach out to 50, 100 people, that's stressful. So really be thoughtful with the time, especially because as you're preparing for interviews, you're preparing your casing and things like that. So you need to be strategic with the time you use because everyone's time is limited. So that's the only thing I would add there.
Yeah, that's such great advice, coaches. One thing that I think I want to add here is your networking approach is going to be customized depending on what type of candidate and role you're recruiting for. If you're recruiting directly out of undergrad, then a lot of the people that are going to be doing your interviews that you'll want to network are the hiring team for that school if it's a target university. And in that case, what you want to do is build relationships. And the earlier you can start, the better. Get your foot in the door. Like you want them to want to root for you. And so if you're asking for a referral, if the point of that conversation is to get a referral, it's not going to be as genuine, which is what Veronika just mentioned is so important. Start early, build relationships, custom your networking to the type of role you're looking for.
And to your point, Amelia, I think it's like if you start early, you don't start off the bat with requests, hey, can you connect me? Or hey, can you refer me? It's actually a genuine conversation, maybe over a year. And you just say, hey, I want to learn from you. Hey, if you're a female, for example, you want to look at other females in consulting, say, hey, I've been really looking for a role model. Can you be my advisor? Or, just very ad hoc, like every 6 months, just chat for 30 minutes. And they're more likely to respond to you. And it feels good to them too. It's nice when you praise other people. So put that in and mix that into your messaging. Say, hey, I'm really impressed with your background. I'm really impressed with what you've accomplished. It makes people feel good and they're more likely to say yes to it in that case too.
Yeah,
This
I
might
love that.
be a personal opinion, but I do think that like people always ask, oh, should I ask for a referral? And personally, I think if someone wants to refer you and their firm has a process for referrals, they're going to do it. And
absolutely.
I think it can make the conversation a little bit uncomfortable. So I always tell people I would stray away from it. I've never asked someone for a referral and I don't know if they referred me or not. If they do, sometimes they'll let you know. But I think in general, they're going to do it, up to their own discretion.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't even have to ask these questions because we're moving through the conversation so naturally. So nice jobs, coaches. I couldn't pay you to be answering any better. You mentioned don't ask maybe for a referral. I love that point, especially if you are talking to multiple people on the same hiring team or on the same office. If you have a good relationship with multiple, they're in that hiring team, they're going to be talking about the candidates, right? There's not that many people that are recruiting for a specific school or for a specific office. So if more than one people have a good relationship with you, know you, that's going to come up when these hiring decisions are happening. So focus on building real relationships. What should these people, so you've talked about like touching point about people's experiences as a woman or in the particular office or on a particular team. What else can maybe these people talk about in coffee chats that help the consultant walk away not feeling taken advantage of and genuinely enjoying that coffee chat?
I think it's rather, I would almost say, rather than what should you talk about, it's like what questions should you ask in the coffee chat? Because a successful meeting is you talking less than 30% of the time. Because when people talk, they feel really good. So in these coffee chats, you want the person who you're meeting with to be talking the most. So I would almost pose the like recommendation to you all is like, what questions should you be asking? And in my mind, the questions you should be asking is what motivates them to work in consulting, what gets them up daily, what excites them about the role. And then separately, I think a lot of people love talking about the future and where they see themselves in 5-10 years. So asking them about what are their career aspirations, not just in consulting, but just holistically in their life. And I think it comes back to my point around empathy and genuine connection. And that's what I would recommend, is really think about what questions would be relevant to ask them and to learn more about them.
And just piggybacking on that, I love the sort of the inquisitive approach to networking. What I would add is this is also an opportunity, right, for you to test out if consulting is right for you too. It's very much a two-way conversation. So I love questions that are frankly kind of hard to answer, but in a good way. So sometimes I'll get questions about, hey, I heard that consulting's been hit pretty hard with the market in the last couple of years. How has that affected you? I think that shows, one, that you seriously care and know a lot about what's been going on in the industry. And two, you are, genuinely taking this as an approach of thinking about how you might be excited about this role. So asking those types of questions that may seem a little bit hard at first, but bringing your sort of authenticity to it can be really helpful for you to really figure it out.
I love that. Yeah. Bella, something to add?
I was just gonna say that all the administrative questions, like anything about the actual recruitment process, don't waste those questions on your networking with consultants. That should be really for the recruiters. And I would say, establish a relationship with the recruiters if you can. If you meet them in person, follow up over email if you have any, administrative questions that do come up. But when you are, networking with consultants, you really want to focus on exactly what Christina was saying, finding something that makes their firm unique. And I think something that in particular that I didn't ask enough about, but I think is really, really indicative of what your actual experience day to day is going to be at the firm is the staffing model. To be completely candid, when I went into this recruitment process, I didn't even know what the different types of staffing models were. But I can speak for Bain in particular. We have a home staffing model, and I think there are so many benefits to that. And I think, for both of you, these other ladies on the panel, they can probably say that the staffing models at their firms have a huge impact too on the way that they, just their experience day to day. And so I think that's a great thing to ask about if you are in those networking chats, but do your research before, try to get as much information as you can online and then make those questions beforehand. And, you can bring up like, oh, I see that Bain, for example, has a home staffing model. Like what does that effect have on your day-to-day? Like, what does that look like? Do you feel like you have a voice when you're, trying to get staff for projects? So kind of weave in like your own research into those questions, I think.
I want to double down on that because that's one of the most common mistakes that we see in aspiring consultants. Do not ask questions that you can find the answer to quickly online. It is a waste of their time. It is a waste of your time. The most thoughtful questions are going to be those that are researched and you've thought about them. They're thoughtful because you've thought about them. And what can the person in front of you uniquely offer to you? What is their unique insight or unique perspective? That's what they're going to be excited to talk about. That's the information that you should be looking for. The one other thing I'll add is be gracious. These consultants don't have to spend their time talking to you. They want to help people, but send a thank you note. Be gracious, be thankful. Show your gratitude for talking to them. All of those things will go a long way toward building that happy, successful relationship. Okay, we've done a lot. So you've decided that you want to get into consulting. You have done some networking and you started having coffee chats. One of the next thing is to make sure that you have a good resume. Christine, I'm gonna start with you. having interviewed and looked through 150 plus resumes, what makes the best of the best stand out?
All right, coming off mute. Yeah, a couple of things. One is we talk about impact a lot in consulting, which basically means, from the project or the work that you've done, what is in a quantitative or qualitative way impact that you've made. So one of my key sort of feedback to my clients is show us the impact, right? Across the internships you did, across the student organizations you have led, what's the impact that you have made? And to the best of your abilities, quantify that, whether it is, hey, through this student organization, I led 100 students on XYZ things. Or during my, prior internship, I worked on a process improvement plan that was able to capture 20% savings, whatever that might be, to the, best of your abilities on kind of accurately depicting the impact that you have made. That really helps. The second thing is, if you think about it, most recruiters will spend maybe 5-10 seconds on the resume. So what that means is you really want to make sure that your experiences sort of speak for themselves. So what is the most important part of what you have done that you want to highlight? And I noted in the chat, but there's a couple of things that consulting firms really look for in terms of your skill sets. One, they look for your ability to lead and have an entrepreneurial mindset, which basically means you saw a problem, you did something about it. Number two is on analytical and conceptual problem solving, meaning that you are able to think both quantitatively and qualitatively. And then I think I had a third point, which I don't remember right now. Oh, I think it's on communication. And that, from a resume perspective or from a cover letter perspective, it means, are you a clear written communicator? Maybe the last thing I'll add, we didn't talk about cover letter, but I still do think that cover letters are important. Again, they may be skimmed really fast, but when I work with clients, we really try to structure it and synthesize it in a way where it can be really quick to understand what are your key strengths and skills. And that might be very simple in terms of, you highlight things in bullet forms, but any way where you can kind of take a step back, look at your resume and said, within 5 to 10 seconds, can I really showcase who I am? I think that's a really good test.
Super helpful. By the way, what Christina just said is good for any resume, for any job ever. Not it will help consulting, but impact, show your impact, quantify where you can, you impacted, but in what way. Use real numbers wherever you can. All of that is super helpful for any resume. Veronika, Bella, anything to add on the consulting resume?
Yeah, I think I just echo what Christina said about really showing the impact. And I think for many roles, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a number. So some people will always say like, oh, I managed a team of 4, I managed a team of 5. And it's, instead of, saying how many people were in the team, if you can quantify the amount of money you raised or, the amount of social media followers you gained, a percentage, I think is always better. But as much as you can focus, even if it's not quantifiable, on really the impact that you had, that's what we're looking for.
That's great.
Yeah,
Veronika?
just a quick note on that. Just some tactical things you can make sure that your resume is optimized. I think it's with what Belle was just mentioning around making sure there's impact, but it's how you structure the points in your resume. I see a lot of my clients not do this, and this is something that we work through in resume review, but typically what I recommend is making sure you lead with the impact followed by how you drove that impact. So always structure the points you have in your resume in that and following that pacing or that process. That will just showcase the impact you drove. And again, the recruiter is going to be probably spending like max 30 seconds, maybe a minute on your resume. So you have to really make it pop on the resume and have it really showcase exactly what you want. So always order the points by ranked highest to lowest in terms of what you want to showcase, because at the end of the day, people won't be spending a lot on your resume. So you really want to make sure what you need to come across comes across very quickly. So just make sure you have that on your resume.
Yeah.
And one other point I forgot to mention is remember your audience, which is usually going to be the recruiter. And that just means simplify the content of the resume as much as possible. They probably won't understand the research work that you did, or the, financial model and the details that you did. Most people won't, including myself, and we're scanning for, a very short amount of time. And so remember your audience and really tailor your message and your content based on that.
That's so great, coaches. And I know this feels hard. I think sometimes the resume is something where every word counts, and that can be difficult. This is something that I would recommend working with a coach on. It takes that like objective third person perspective to help you tweak it and put it into the right format. I personally have worked with a coach for my resume, and I didn't know my resume was bad until I saw the edited version. One thing I do want to ask about LinkedIn. I saw Nikita ask this question in the chat. I think it's important. I would wager that it's more important for that initial outworking, and like the consultants that you reach out to are going to look at your LinkedIn. But is there any other way in which having a really great LinkedIn impacts this recruiting process? Any of you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, from my experience, LinkedIn is important, but I think the first sort of encounter that recruiters will have is through your resume and your cover letter. LinkedIn sort of becomes secondary or maybe even tertiary. So it's good to upkeep it, but I wouldn't say spend more time on LinkedIn. I would actually say devote more of your time on your, resume and cover letter, because those will definitely be reviewed.
I also saw a question about cover letters, so I just wanted to quickly say it because I don't think we have a question later about it. But if there is a place to add a cover letter, definitely do it. When I applied, I don't think McKinsey had a place. So in that case, don't, email it over to the recruiter, but you don't need it. But if there is a place to attach it, definitely do it. And I think the most common mistake that I see people make with the cover letter is making the entire letter about like why they want to work at McKinsey, Bain, whatever it is. And they know why you want to work there. They, get tons of applications. So I think it's definitely good to make it specific to the firm and tailor it to the specific firm. Like you shouldn't be able to replace McKinsey with BCG and it should make sense. Like it should be a very tailored cover letter. So that means saying like, if a certain company has, or a certain firm has like a huge international presence, maybe you can bring in your own experience and talk about how you are international, or you have worked in other countries or whatever it is. So in that case, I think it's okay to bring up things that are specific about the firm, but generally the bulk of the cover letter should really be focused on your own experience and how you have had those experiences and how they've developed your skills that will then be transferable to consulting.
Well,
And
that's
on
great.
that note, in regards to the cover letter, just to add to that, what I recommend to my clients is to look at the job description or the JD that you're applying to. Look at what they highlight as skills. Typically, they'll bold them and bullet point them. And you can't take it verbatim, but replicate that in your cover letter. You want to map what skills you have and map it to the JD or the job description. So make sure, Bella mentioned you don't want to be talking all about why do you want to be at the firm. Rather, you should be talking about why they should pick you, why you're a good fit for the firm. So always reference the JD. It's there. They've already given you the key to what you should have in your cover letter. Just make sure you map that out. And that's an easy way to tackle it.
I love that. That goes for your resume too. You can weave in those skills in your resume
absolutely.
too. A great litmus test I've heard for the cover letter is if you could switch out your cover letter with anyone else, then it's not specific or personal enough to you. And if you could switch out that cover letter to any other firm, it's also not specific and personal enough. So make sure that it's specific to the firm and specific to you. Okay, quick commercial break to give our coaches a chance to breathe. I want to just double down that if there's one thing that you can do to break into consulting that will give you the maximum impact for the price, it's this boot camp. We've selected like 8 of our top coaches who have really specific expertise areas on resumes, on cases, on cover letters, on networking, and we cover every single part of the recruiting process. So highly, highly, highly recommend checking this out. You get a perspective, you get a range of perspectives too, across different firms and across different people. So highly recommend. You also be within a cohort of other people that you can work with. We pair you to someone that you do case interviews with, mock case interviews. So highly recommend checking this out. Apply for the giveaway if you haven't done so already at bit.ly/mbbprep. I'm so sorry, I keep clicking back. These are some of the things that we're going to cover. Brainstorming and data insight, structuring, math, market sizing, behavioral interviews, games, Pymetrics, case robots, how you even get in the door for an interview in the first place, common cases. Not on here, we also talk about resumes and networking and coffee chats and all of that too. So every single part of the process you will be walked through by an expert. Highly recommend checking this out. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. Pacific time once a week, and it starts in September. As mentioned too, it's over $2,600 of value. So you get live expert instruction, an assigned peer to do case interviews with. We've custom built assignments and drills for you. These are coaches that have been in the room, like in these hiring decisions, creating these cases. You also do a 30-minute case interview with a top coach, like one of these panelists as part of that bundle. You also get access to Leland Plus. We have a bank of cases, example resumes from people that have successfully applied, tons of math drills and other things. So you're getting a ton through joining this bootcamp, and we would love to see you there. For Kyle, we offer consulting twice a year right now. We held one earlier, so this will be the last one this year. So if you're applying anytime, again, in the near future, this is it for you. If you're applying for graduate programs too, it's peak application season if you're applying from grad programs. So it's especially helpful for those. Oh, yes. And we have a special price for you guys for being here tonight. It's $7.99 for tonight only. Amanda will drop the link in the chat, but tonight is the one-time deal. So if you're thinking about it, do it. And if you get the giveaway, we'll actually refund you your price. So if that's what you're waiting for, don't wait for that. And then again, bit.ly/mbbprep. That's how if applying to this is also how you'll get the $400 discount. So make sure to apply in order to get that discount. Awesome. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Behavioral interviews. I think this is something that it's scary for people because it's hard to stand out. You know, how many unique backgrounds and experiences can you have? And as someone mentioned, everyone kind of wants to work for these firms. So how can the best behavioral interviews that you've done, whether in the room as a recruiter or yourself, how do you kind of leave the interviewer with the best possible impression? How do you answer in the best possible way to behavioral and fit questions in particular? Bella, having recently gone through this, would love your perspective.
Yeah. So I think the main things that they're looking for is just like an enthusiasm and an excitement for consulting. Because you're, a college student, or at least for me when I was applying to an internship or a, initial full-time role, they're not expecting you to know everything, but you do want to show that you are receptive to feedback. So in the case interview, it's important to show that you're a quick learner. So that means like, you don't need to get everything perfect, but as long as you can show that if they, correct something, you're really adaptable and you can quickly, change on the fly. I think that is a super important skill to showcase. As far, as the behavioral interview, I think, we'll get into this a little later, but Bain doesn't have a ton of behavioral. They only have like, I think maybe 15% of your entire interview process will be behavioral. And so I think your personality can really shine through the case interviews, whether that's through like bringing in your own personal experience with a product or an industry that you have any experience with, or just through your energy and enthusiasm and, the types of questions that you ask during the case interview. I think that a lot of that can shine through. But yeah, Christina and Veronika, you probably have
I would,
Cool.
yeah. I would add to your last point, Belle, around the energy and enthusiasm. That will go a long way. So make it clear that you're really passionate about joining this specific firm, and make it clear that, let's say you're applying to BCG, that you are solely focused on BCG. It may be true that you're applying to all different firms, but make it clear to the interviewer that you want to be here and explain why. The other thing to note, depending on, I mean, the audience, I'm sure you guys are both undergrad students and also maybe graduate students, and also expert people in the field already and applying to be an expert consultant or more senior consultant. The behavioral interview kind of changes depending on your seniority. I noticed in my experience when I was applying after undergrad, and the behavioral interviews were more centered around your enthusiasm. You were humble. You were someone they would want to fly with every week and hang out with, because at the end of the day, they're your counterparts. So they're going to be spending a lot of time with you. So they want to see, can I hang out with this person as well? Not only are they really intelligent, but trustworthy, but can we hang out with them? Because we're going to be spending a lot of time with them. When you are more senior, for those in the audience who are applying to more senior roles, it's a lot about, are you trustworthy? Can they put you in front of a multi-million-dollar client and trust that what you say is correct and that you'll handle yourself with gravitas? So I think it really depends what level you're at, but at the end of the day, the passion and enthusiasm will go a long way, and just making sure that the interviewer can trust you with working with clients and also working with your teammates at the consulting firm as well.
Yeah, I think
Love
there's
that.
oh, sorry. I was just going to add in, I think there's like it's commonly called like the airport test, and it's like different versions of it, but it's like, would you want to, if you had a really long layover and you were delayed, would you want to hang out with this person for multiple hours in the airport? Or it's like, would you want to sit next to this person on a plane? So just, general like qualities, like enthusiasm, kindness, things like that. As much as that can shine through, like I think it can't be overstated, the importance of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may not be
go for it.
objectively evaluated, but how likable you are and how good of a person you are, at least from the interviews, definitely do matter.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the airport test. I'm glad that someone mentioned it. Consulting, as Veronika mentioned, is super team-based. You are in a team on every project. And when you're interviewing with people who will be your future teammates and colleagues, the one question, the ideal impression that you want to leave them with is, I want to work with this person. They seem cool. They seem to know what they're doing. They seem hardworking, and I would like to work with this person. So if you can walk away from the behavioral interview, leaving your interviewer with that impression, you have succeeded. Thank you for bringing up Bain. Bella, I want to go into all of your firms. So Veronika and Christina, can you talk about behavioral interviews? I know McKinsey has the PEI and BCG. Can you guys talk about the behavioral interview processes at your firms specifically?
Yeah. Veronika, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I can go first. So for BCG, it's more open-ended. That's typically what you can expect from BCG. Just inherently on some of the interviews, both in the case interview, but also the behavior interview. But at the end of the day, it's all about your story. So make sure your story is really concrete. You're clear on why you're applying, what will consulting do for your career, and be able to answer those questions with strength and clearly outline why you want this opportunity. But it's a lot of open-ended. So you just have to be ready and confident in your story and be ready to answer any questions that might come your way. It's good and bad. Bad is that you can prepare as structurally as for some other behavioral interviews, but it's good because I find that you might have more of an opportunity to share your own personal journey. For example, in my BCG interviews, when I was interviewing, I was actually taking a sabbatical. I was traveling the world, visiting like 33 different countries in 12 months and just spending time traveling, which was an amazing experience. But I talked a lot about that in the behavioral interview. I didn't talk a lot about my consulting experience prior. I talked about why I wanted to go back into consulting, but a lot of it was around my travel and my experience in different cultures, and it really resonated with the interviewer. So they probably gained from that I like travel, which is great for consultants. I like new experiences. I'm a problem solver. I enjoy being uncomfortable. So it can be a story that's more personal, but it highlights certain skills that you have, which are important for interviews. So for BCG, just be prepared for a more open-ended interview and just really be strong on your story and what you want to share. I'll pass it on to Christina for McKinsey.
Yeah, I would say McKinsey is very structured, so a little bit different than BCG. PEI is what we commonly refer to as behavioral, which stands for personal experience interview. And it is very much going into your experience. I tell clients it's almost like peeling back each layer of an onion, where you will share some scenario, some experience that you had, and then the interviewer will kind of dig deeper into what that experience was, what was the complication, how was the conversation that you had with the other person, how did this other person respond, how did you respond, etc. So we do have maybe before PEI, tell me about yourself or small talks, but then it goes straight into the PEI section. And there are 4 kind of topics that you may get. 1 is personal impact, 2 is entrepreneurial drive, 3 is inclusive leadership, and the 4th is courageous change. And so there are within each of those topics specific skill sets that the interviewer will be evaluating you on. And so it's important, and I suppose structure in this case could be good because you can actually prepare for it in advance to make sure that your experiences sort of hit on those skill sets that they're looking for.
That's great. Behavioral is something that we recommend doing a mock interview with a coach. You don't want to overrehearse so as to come off rote, but it is helpful to just get a practice run out of the way, get some of the jitters out, start thinking about how you can structure your experiences, and you can work with a coach to identify what feels like the most powerful stories and experiences that you have to draw from. Want to get into, I think, probably the scariest part of the consulting recruiting process, which is the case interviews. So this question is around commonly overlooked things when you're preparing for case interviews. I want to make it more broad, just general case interview, best practices, common mistakes, things that you guys see when working with clients. How can the people on this panel prepare in the strongest and best way possible for a consulting case interview? This is an important one, so I'd love to go to all of you. Bella, do you want to start us off?
Yes, I talked about overcasing. I think that's a huge thing. In regards to the case math, because I came from a humanities major, I know a lot of people are really scared about the case math. So I'll just tackle that. I think the most important tips that I have for that section are, of course, the mental math drills are helpful. You really want to know your multiplication tables and know how to do, division quickly. But generally, they don't want you to just be a human calculator. It's way more about how you contextualize your answers, and actually the framing that I think goes around the actual calculations. So before you go into that section, start by really understanding like what you need to be calculating. So asking like any clarifying questions that you need to know beforehand, and then get into just explaining your structure without any numbers so that you know your approach is good. And then from there, I'll go in and take the actual numbers and calculate, which is actually, I think, one of the hardest parts about casing because we're never really taught to verbalize our math. So that's a skill that you'll really need to practice. And then at the end, once you have your number, contextualizing it and making sure that you're explaining like what that actually means and what you want to do next with that number. So yeah, that's my biggest tip for the math section and how you go about structuring it.
Yeah, there's 2 awesome things that you said that I want to double down on. The first one is you can check in with your interviewer. What's cool about a case interview is that it's simulating a case, right? And you're going to be working with the manager, whoever else. So you can ask like, is this along the right path? Do I need to adjust in any way? You can use the interviewer to help give yourself directions. And then the other thing you said I think is super important is contextualizing the math and also answering the why. Like, okay, so I have this number at the end. Why is that important? How does it affect the question at the beginning? Don't just like, oh, I did the math. Okay, phew, I'm done. Here's the answer. But it's really more about it, like, how can we use this to answer the problem that was posited? Veronika, case interview from any case interview from your advice. Also, you have worked at a couple of different firms. So if you have any experience with the interviewer-led versus interviewee-led, would love your perspective on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first part of the question, like generally what would I recommend preparing for case interviews, and it's commonly overlooked. I would recommend preparing with many different people. Like I work with clients often on case interviews or mock case interviews. And I always recommend they work with peers or other coaches as well to get a variety of styles, because every person has their own style of approaching a case interview. It can be very straightforward in terms of the right process, but people all have their own different biases or processes. So I would recommend just having a variety of people you practice with, and that's commonly overlooked. Typically, people just choose one coach or just focus independently or focus with one peer. So try to get a variety if you can. I know that's way more difficult. It's easier said than done, but would recommend that. In terms of my experience between interviewer-led and interviewee-led consulting case interviews, interviewer-led, I think at the end of the day, a lot of MBB is that. BCG is less so. So depending on what your top firm is, make sure you cater your preparation for that style. Where, for example, BCG is interviewee led. So the person being interviewed is the one leading the case. And that, it might come naturally to you. And if it doesn't come naturally to you, I would really practice on guiding and leading in your mock cases to make sure that you're prepared for that, because you might, depending on the style of the interviewer you actually have at the firm, they might put pressure on you to start moving through the case, and you need to make sure that you're able to lead on that. So really practice for the style you're interviewing in, and making sure that the firms you're applying to, you understand what that style will be, so you're prepared.
Yeah,
And
that's
I would
excellent.
imagine that, I would imagine that most coaches actually have experience on both styles. So you can request for based on what your needs are, what your comfort levels are. Couple other real quick things I will add on case interview. One, I think about case interviews as a pattern recognition, in the sense that there are, if you think about it, a handful of maybe 4 or 5 topics of cases that you can get, whether that's profitability, M&A, etc. And so as you're doing the cases, what I did is I kept a notebook where I put all of my cases in, so that I can try to figure out some patterns around, okay, what have I missed, or what is something that I can remember for the next time that I run another profitability case. And so starting to kind of stagger what those patterns are for you is helpful. And then 2 is a big chunk of case is actually a mindset of the fact that it's not, I say this quite a bit, it's a two-way street. And I mean that genuinely, in the sense that you are problem solving with your interviewer around a client. And so the more that you can make it collaborative, the easier it will be. And honestly, it'll calm your nerves as well.
That's great. What is a common mistake? You've seen so many interviews, Christina. What are the most common mistakes you see people make?
Yeah, when it feels like a one-way. And so what that could mean is, I can see candidates when they're not maybe as, maybe when they're fearful to ask questions, like clarifying questions to confirm what the objective of the case is, or throughout the interview process, not really showing your perspectives. So it's one thing, to solve the different, qualitative or quantitative questions within a case, but we also want to hear what your thoughts are, right? After you've calculated a number, do you think that this is a good profit margin? Do you think this is a good ROI? The candidates that do well are those who are not afraid to share the perspective, even if it's wrong, because that's what we do. We have a hypothesis that we have to test, right? That's kind of part of the consulting work. And so when I don't see candidates do that as well, I think it definitely changes the tone a bit in the interview as well.
Thank you. That's super helpful. We're a little bit over, so I'll wrap us up. I do want to point out what you just answered in the chat though, Veronika, because I think it's an important question of when you interview as an experienced hire, or even from an internship to a full-time role, do the cases change? And the answer is maybe, but mostly they're staying the same. They're in those same frameworks, but it's more that you are being judged and evaluated differently depending on your level. Anything you want to add to that?
No, yeah, just echoing that. And I think it's the biggest difference in behavioral interviews rather than case interviews. Case interviews, there's less margin for error. They'll expect perfection more often. I found in my case than when you're more junior, you shouldn't be making same mistakes as you would be when you're junior. But the big difference is in behavioral interviews. That's when they're going to want to see more leadership experience. The impact they want to see is greater impact. And they also want to see potentially some selling skills too, because depending on how senior you're coming into consulting firms, you will start helping pitch work to clients. So that's something they want to see that you have experience in. It just depends how senior you're coming into the firm at.
Awesome. Recent grad should be like, these are all considerations for people at different levels of the recruiting process. Okay, gonna end on a banger, and this could be a reiteration of something that you've said throughout or something new. What is if there's one thing that you want the people that have attended here tonight to walk away, what would that be? What is your top tip? Christina, let's start with you.
Yeah, this is gonna sound cheesy, but I mean it from the deepest of my heart. Have fun in the process, whether it is you're at the very beginning of trying to figure out if consulting is the right fit for you and doing networking calls and things like that, or as you're preparing for the interview. Even though it's an arduous process, you actually learn a lot about yourself and your strengths and what you like and what drives you. And at the end of the day, I think if that's what you discover about your career and what that could mean for you, I think the best it could be. So try to have fun, and the less nerves that you can have and the less nerves you bring to the interview, the better the process will be as well.
I love that. You're preparing for like a huge opportunity. It should be exciting. And as we've talked about, doing the right preparation, going through this process should help you figure out whether this is the right thing for you as well as for the firms that you're hiring for. Thank you for that, Christina. Veronika, what is yours?
Yeah, I would say I mentioned this in the beginning, but just stay genuine to yourself. I think come off genuine, be genuine in how you network, how you present yourself in the interviews. It will come a long way. And I think try not to, at least I saw this in my past, right? You know, there's so much you can research on the typical consultant at MBB, who you need to be to fit in and like what they're looking for. But remember, they're also looking for unique people. So try not to fit yourself into a mold of what you think they would expect. Of course, that's helpful to know like certain processes, what to expect in interviews, but remember you're unique in who you are and be genuine to yourself. And that when that's celebrated, then you know you found the right firm, right? Especially if you have multiple offers from different firms, the ones that make you feel that you can be genuinely yourself is the one you should take. And again, if you get the offer and you work there, you're going to be spending most of your time working. That's just the truth. So you might as well be working in a job where you feel you are your true self and you're not trying to fit into a mold of a consultant. So that would be my final tip.
Thanks. I love that. Bella, bring us out.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was gonna say be yourself, but Veronika, I think you completely covered it. Because you really can't, you don't want to like create a resume for consulting. You want to figure out how to shape your resume to be tailored for consulting. Other than that, I think the most important thing is just to do your research when you're networking, when you're, looking on the firm websites, learn as much as you can so that you can create the best application that's tailored to that company. And also, it is so important to end up somewhere that you feel like you are a good fit for. So when you do your research and learn more about the firm, you'll understand like, okay, is this somewhere that I could see myself? Exactly like Veronika said, spending most of my week with people or doing this work. So yeah, just do as much research as you can, talk to people, and you'll end up in the right place. Just trust the process. And yeah, it can be stressful, but find the fun, like Christina was saying as well.
Yeah, I love it, coaches. I think the one thing that I'll add based on tonight is get help. You have people like this with so much knowledge and who want to help people get into this process and reach their goals. I think it feels very isolating and like you're on a little siloed island. That is not the case. Use friends, use mentors, use coaches. You do not have to go through this process alone. Okay. We are going to announce our giveaway winner, Carmelo Almadine. Carmelo, congratulations. We are so excited to have you in the cohort. Our team will be in touch. We will email you with all the details, but congratulations. We're so excited to have you for the boot camp. If you could please join me in thanking the coaches for being here tonight. They are here of their own free will and are spending their time helping you guys reach your goals. So thank you so much, coaches. I feel very prepared to go and recruit for consulting myself. Thank you for your knowledge and your insights and your time.
Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
you can come in. Thanks, guys. Ready to get started? If you want to break into consulting, let's get you some help. Sign up for a strategy call with a member of our team. We'll walk you through exactly what you need. We'll talk to you and think about your personal background and your budget and your goals and all of the things. So highly recommend setting up that call and then get coaching. Work with one of these panelists. You do not have to go through this process alone. We're here to help, and we genuinely want you to succeed. Coaches, Christina, Veronika, Bella, thank you so much once again for being here. And thank you everyone for joining us, especially those in Australia and New Zealand.
Thank you, Amelia, for hosting us.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.